Welcome in, everybody, to the first episode of the Matt Lab podcast. Today, I have a guest. He needs no introduction, but I'm going to give you one anyway as the host of the show. This man I am talking to today is a trick shot basketball and fitness content creator extraordinaire. He has accumulated more than 540,000 followers across all social media platforms, a man who has been featured on Highlights Wave, Bleacher Report, ESPN Overtime, Playmaker, and SportsCenter Top 10 Plays. A man who has made a seamless shift from toned basketball star to jacked bodybuilding phenomenon in the blink of an eye, all while maintaining his skill behind and in front of the camera. Ladies and gentlemen, I present to you the one and only Jack Woodruff. Jack, welcome to the show.
Thank you, man. Jeez, you flatter me.
How was that intro? Was it good?
That was great. That was that made me feel great. That was amazing, man.
More than
Appreciate it.
deserving of it. For those that don't know, me and Jack are friends. He lives currently with one of my best friends. So me and Jack have hung out quite a bit. Haven't seen each other in a while. Hope to see you soon, but
We'll have to change that.
gonna have to change that for sure. But Jack,
Absolutely.
let's get right into it here. My first question for you: tell me, does this phrase mean anything to you? Air Jordan 9, cool gray on foot plus quick clean.
It does, yeah.
What
That's
does that? What does that
crazy.
mean?
That's crazy. Yeah, that's my first video I've ever posted.
First
Yeah.
video Jack ever posted 9 years ago, Jack. I want to make the record very clear
Ah,
that
yeah.
you are a content creator veteran. I think a lot of people they started in the pandemic in that 2020, that COVID time. Now you've been doing this for a long time, going back hot sauce challenges as a punishment in one-on-one basketball games. You've been doing this for a while. So of course I have to ask the question: what made you get into creating?
Yeah, absolutely. That's crazy that you bring that up. Yeah, I mean, so I started actually not with fully like basketball related content, right? I remember back in the day, I used to watch a ton of just sneaker YouTube. I was super obsessed with Jordans and all the hype beast shoes that used to came out. So I would, I didn't have like a crazy sneaker collection, but all the money that I would make from, washing dishes at a pizza restaurant, I basically push towards buying Jordans. So I would always tell like Quinn and any other friend that like in middle school I had the $10 fit and then like 250 on my feet, like, and it just did not pull it off at all. But basically back then I remember watching a ton of sneaker YouTube. Um, Actually, DC Heat was one of the first people I started watching, who now is like a huge basketball creator that makes a bunch of um like in the hood type content, I guess I'll say, or what I'm saying, like IRL basketball videos that have creative ideas behind it. So just started from there with like, okay, I can make videos similar to that. So I started making cleaning videos, like restoration videos. I remember I like painted the shoe at one point and made a video about like making it a custom. And that kind of just eventually evolved into obviously I was playing basketball as like my first sport. So that turned into the basketball one on ones, 3-on-3s, IRL videos that then eventually led into trick shotting and everything later.
How strong is your connection to the sport of basketball, and what made you really fall in love with the game? Was it that love that kind of pulled you from shoe unboxing and cleaning videos into making basketball videos?
Yeah. I mean, I would say that basketball was always just like how soccer is to you. I don't know why I just felt like a gravitational pull towards that sport specifically when I was younger. Um, which looking back on it with like the genetics I have, I don't know why I picked that one, but I mean, it definitely from a young age, like none of my siblings were into it. I don't really even remember why. I think it was just like the NBA, watching the NBA for some reason clicked for me and made me want to be like I was really into Dwayne Wade, so like I watched him on the TV and was like, I want to play basketball. That's what I want to do. Um, and I was obviously like I played soccer and tennis too growing up, but it just didn't click like basketball did. So yeah, I would say basketball was the reason I did the shoe videos or got into sneakers, but then like I guess the content just transitioned, yeah, because that was something I started with, and then I was like, I kind of fell out of love for the sneaker thing because I realized I didn't have the money for it. So I was like, all right, let's,
Because he's a young kid, you can only ask your parents for the shoe money every so often.
yeah,
You
exactly.
bring up Dwayne Wade. I know you're a Miami Heat fan. Um,
Yep.
in today's day and age, you see athletes in social media. It's like a pairing. You're building your brand on social media is like almost just as important as how you can actually do on the court. But back then, very much not a thing. So Dwayne Wade being a basketball inspiration, kind of just going off of your point there, did you have any inspirations in the media landscape, basketball or not, for when you started making content?
Yeah, definitely. Trying to think early on, like I said, it was the sneaker people, but I would say like when I really started transitioning more towards like IRL basketball content, it was Devontae Friga. I loved watching his videos during COVID. Um, and he was just a D3 basketball player, but now everybody knows who he is just because he basically. I don't know if anyone else was really doing like park videos back then, so he was the first one to do that. So I really was into his videos. Um, I've always loved DC Heat's videos. I thought they were like pretty creative, and I liked his like editing style. Trying to think who else in the space. I mean, Two Hype. I think everyone's seen like a Two Hype video at some point if you're into basketball. I absolutely like Two Hype. I trying to think if there's any other major ones. I mean, everyone when I was making the trick shot videos, it compared me to TJass, so I'd be lying to say like I didn't watch his stuff and draw inspiration from him. So yeah, that's just to name a few. I'd say.
And let's get into trick shots now. We talked about all the types of videos that you were making when you started your channel, but trick shots really became your bread and butter, for
Mm-hmm.
lack of a better word. But particularly, I think during that pandemic time is when you really started to see the growth. I mean, you've accumulated more than 500,000 on your TikTok, which is incredible growth. But something about trick shots, it's like I how do you discover that you have that ability to pull off these trick shot videos? Because it's not just something where you play a sport, you get good at a sport, yeah, but like
Mm-hmm.
trick shots, like where did you develop that sort of skill for that?
Yeah. I would say it was kind of like a feeling of I knew that like my handle was the best part of my game and like my hand speed. Like I never thought I was an elite shooter or like crazy athletic or anything, but I just like since I was in eighth grade, I remember I used to like dribble in my basement. So I always knew like I had a good handle. So I remember when it probably was T Jazz and a couple of other people, like when I saw the trick shot videos start to do well for other people, I was like, well, I think I could do that. Like, and so that I just started trying it. And I remember when it first started, like if you look at my first ones, like they aren't anything close to what it became. So I guess like just like practice with that, considering I probably did it, I would say like a year and a half, 2 years before it really started to blow up.
Wow.
So, I mean, there was, I remember, I think it was sophomore year at UVM. I definitely had like some traction. I think I had maybe like 10,000 followers by the end of like that whole year of posting like once a week, every weekend. But I would go to the UVM Rec Center like once a weekend and I would just set up my camera and just I had like one in mind every week, and I would just like not leave until I did that. Um, some of them obviously were like it's luck based, so like there would be times where I'd spend like 3 hours just
Mm.
hauling it from like half court, and it just didn't happen. I'd be like, all right, like I'll try again next week. But yeah,
So
that was
as
basically the premise. Sorry.
yeah, so no, you're good. As you saw the growth, like you said, you stuck with a little schedule there. Did you have to
Yeah.
really maintain like a strict posting routine to try to go with like algorithms, or did you try and stick just organically, do it when you felt it in the moment, or did it become kind of like a strict, almost like a work schedule for you?
Yeah. I would say at first it was definitely just like wanting to do it. I definitely had like if I put like one a week out, then I think that's like good consistency for that type of video because obviously I couldn't do it like every day, especially with like the gym is just full at nights during the week. So I would just be like, okay, if I go in the morning on the weekend and like I don't feel self conscious, just like setting up a camera and taking up a court for like a whole 3 hours or whatever it was. Um, but I would definitely say that timing is everything as well. Obviously, like TikTok, I mean, TikTok used to be, like viewed as such a cringe thing until I'd say like the pandemic.
And
And
it's
I've
genuinely become
started,
like business opportunities for people that started back then. Today,
right,
their entire income, their entire like influencer life is based on that growth they had all those years ago.
exactly. So I think part of it is timing. I obviously started at a decent time, like thinking about some of the videos that blew up on TikTok. I was dribbling in my basement to like a beat, and one of those got like 10 million views. That would just never happen nowadays. Um, but so I have to acknowledge that part. But on top of that, yeah, I would say I was probably posting like once a week during the school year, and then I remember when it was like popping off during the summer when I had time. My parents were super helpful throughout the whole thing because I was staying at home, and they would just go out with me. Like we probably film one once every other day when it was like doing really well. And at that point, it did kind of start to become. It doesn't like intentionally, but I felt pressured to like keep up with that. Otherwise, it felt like it wasn't going to grow or that I was going to fall off or whatever. So that part is no matter if you love something and you do it and like you become successful in it. I feel like at some point, like if you are making money off it or you want to do that as like a source of income, like there is no matter what going to be some joy taken away from like having to do it to continue that. But that doesn't mean it's less fun than obviously working a real job or whatever it is. Not a real job, but something that maybe you aren't fully passionate or enthralled in. So
You gave me a lot there to go off
yeah,
of. And I do want to I don't want to just jump away from this because you gave me a good thing about that anxiety and the pressure. And I was going to get into that later, but I think it's just good to just talk about it now because I think especially with content creators, as soon as they start really growing, it like you mentioned, it becomes less and less of just a side hobby, and you can start to see it as, oh, this could potentially be what pays the bills, and I can have fun doing it. But then the fun might start to fade away when it's about there's pressure now to get views, there's pressure now to get likes, there's pressure to get brands and partnerships, which I know you have experience with working with brands and stuff. So I guess my question around that is how have you dealt with those like anxieties, and do you have like any like real experience with that?
yeah, yeah. I mean, considering I don't really post like that anymore, not saying that that's purely just because of that.
Hmm.
I would say that part of that was like it was just me recognizing that maybe there was parts about it that I didn't like. But I will also say that if you do anything enough, then just like doing a podcast or anything where you're putting yourself out there and making yourself uncomfortable, then you eventually become comfortable with that. So I remember at a point like it was a habit to go out and do the trick shots or whatever. It was a habit to even like a couple of videos I made in the park, like it didn't feel anxiety inducing because I was just like focused on that goal. And I didn't really care. There was a time where I had a good mindset of like I don't care if anyone gets upset about like this camera being here because at the end of the day I'm gonna go home, I'm gonna edit it, I'm gonna post it, and I'm gonna feel good about it. So that's all that really matters. But it is hard in public situations, I think, to not feel like eyes on you if you have a camera out or something. Um, but yeah, I feel like I strayed away from the question. What?
No. You're good. That was good. I definitely it definitely takes a lot of courage to like put yourself out there and go, especially in something that you're doing. Like sometimes you don't have a hoop at your house. You got to go to a public hoop, and you got to go to these public situations. So I
Yeah,
definitely think
definitely.
there's a lot of wisdom to take from that. We can go back into the actual. I'm very interested in the actual trick shot making process, because it's so much more than the difficulty and execution of the shot. There's the effects, there's maybe following a social media trend, there's the music, there's the lighting, there's the camera work. You mentioned how you had your parents that were there to help you and record or whatever, but I wanted to ask, how much time did it take to come up with a quote unquote production formula in terms of idea, record, edit, post, or was it very organic?
I would say it was natural the way that it happened, but it definitely like it took time and it definitely took think some thought behind it. Because when I started at UVM, I was just setting up my camera. I used to set it up like horizontally, so it would be good for like YouTube, but I was posting it on Instagram and TikTok, so there's black bars, and so I think that's just learning how to become a content creator. In general, is like what if anything is wrong in that sense, where it's not like appealing to the eye visually, if it's not maybe a good lighting or like the what's the word for it? The frame isn't like fully filled with you, or like stuff is happening in the full frame, then it's not going to catch people's attention. So I think that just transitioned from like, okay, I'm just making a standstill. I'm making a trick shot. The camera is still, and it's far away from me. There's no effects. And then eventually I was like, okay, people like when somebody follows me with a camera. Um, up close, that for whatever reason that did well. Okay, let's keep doing that. And that eventually kind of led into that formulaic, like we're gonna do every trick shot like this. Uh and that's kind of what I ended up sticking with for a while because that was just what worked. And the editing and all that I think just came from like years of loving YouTube. So trying to learn so that I could edit YouTube videos decently. Just like YouTube tutorials on Final Cut and now DaVinci. I use DaVinci, and the internet is an amazing thing because otherwise I would have no idea how to use those things. But yeah,
The internet is a free college, dude.
yeah.
What was easier, coming up with new trick shot ideas or coming up with new ways to edit them and make them look good in the editing room?
I would probably say the editing room, but I think that would I felt like that didn't translate as well to more attention, like more views and stuff. I think that the crazier the trick shot was in person, like the more people would view it. Um, but the most difficult part I think was like getting the good shot because obviously like my parents did an amazing job, but they aren't videographers, and I'm moving quick and there's a lot of jolting and then the shot. And so there was a couple times, plenty of times actually, where like my camera isn't also the most amazing thing in the world. It's good, but like there'd be times where it would go out of focus right when I made the shot, or my parents would maybe like jolt it and they didn't see the basket when it went in. So then like I was a perfectionist to the point where obviously stuff like that would not bug me to where I was like, oh, but like you just get a level, you have a standard, and then if it doesn't uphold that standard, then you're like, should I even post this? Is it even so? Keeping that standard was always difficult and not easy. Um, but yeah.
And it's a standard that you kind of put on yourself as a content creator, and you're kind of like a solo team. Did you have more support when you were younger making these videos? Like, were your friends were they behind it? Were they potentially? I don't want to like speak out of tune, but potentially like not taking it seriously. Like, how was your environment and like your social space when you were really trying to grow as a creator?
Yeah. In high school, when I made my YouTube channel, I remember I was very selective about who I let know. I actually only had like one or two friends that I let know, and it was just because I didn't really want it to be like a thing that people knew about yet. And then I think it was probably like I had like 1,000 subscribers, and I had posted maybe like 50 videos around there when I like started telling people and like posting about it on my social media. And I think that was obviously like a fear of getting made fun of a little bit because I think people don't take it serious until they see like it's doing well, and that's something that people are always scared about starting stuff, even though it's like everybody has something that they want to do or want to start, and just because social media is like putting it out there for some reason, people think they have the right to put their opinion on it, which they do, but it's definitely scary. I would say other than that, though, like as soon as it started doing well, I definitely had a ton of love from friends, support from friends. I never had like I don't think I had really any hate from close friends, but obviously, I like you deal with hate from internet trolls and stuff if you have videos that pop off. So yeah,
Ledyard High School, right?
yeah,
I did my research. I did my research.
That's kind of crazy, bro. I appreciate it.
Um, oh, I had to get that in there, and it made me forget about what I was gonna. Like you mentioned, dealing with the internet hate, internet trolls, like quote unquote. Has this experience being a content creator kind of shifted how you view being a content like consumer at all?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I don't think I was ever, to be honest, someone who, I never like write comments, to be honest,
Hmm.
but I definitely could see how like when I would view stuff, I definitely would have like an opinion about it. Everyone has opinions about it. They watch a video and they're like, oh, or maybe a negative view on it, or they think that something's stupid without like really thinking about like maybe how much work someone put in behind a video. So that was the part that changed for me. It was like people are very quick to judge people on the internet without knowing them, which how could they know them? Um, but there really isn't like there's no benefit to either person when you're just like hating on like just shitting on somebody on the internet, right? So that
Um,
was the only thing that changed for me is like I remember reading through hate comments, and even though I got so many comments that I'd be like, wow, this is like they're like this is sick, this is sick, this is sick. Like as a human, I feel like you just gravitate towards like, oh, this person said this about it. This person said all the negativity, which is something you definitely have to if you're gonna do it for a long time, which I didn't, but like you have to learn how to deal with that, I guess.
let's shift over to sort of the new content you started to create. You've started to dip into like the fitness scene, the bodybuilding scene. It's actually your most viewed video on your YouTube. 36,000 views is how you gain 10 pounds of muscle in 3 months. Your second is about like your vertical, which I know that was probably more basketball related, but still that's general fitness. It's that's general physical health.
Yeah.
Um, what prompted the shift in fitness content? Was it just recording what you were changing about yourself in real life, or was it like an actual I want to make content about this?
Yeah. Um, I'd say it was probably like the change in my own habits and passions in real life. It's not that I moved away from basketball. Like I still love basketball. I still play probably like once a week. I'm locked into the playoffs right now, like every night. I just go home and watch a game. So I definitely love basketball still, but there was a point where I felt like I was getting sick of the trick shot stuff a little bit, um, which probably is just like a little bit of burnout, which I could have pushed through easily. But I remember there was a point where I was like, I'm enjoying the gym lot more right now. So um, that kind of just happened from basically spending years, the past 2 or 3 years, I've been more locked into the gym, and my habits reflect that. So that kind of at the same time now I'm watching more fitness content, looking up to more fitness influencers, and I'm like, well, same thing with the basketball. I'm like, there's some really cool content that people make revolving around fitness. I think I could possibly help some people by doing the same. So that's basically how that started.
How important was it for you though in that moment to focus on the content that was making you happy and the content that you enjoy doing, as opposed to maybe still churning out videos about something that you lost a passion for?
Yeah, that definitely. I'm glad I did, to be honest. Um, I think it's hard to, especially once you get like to a certain number of followers or whatever. If you're not continually growing, and especially if you're losing, I like at one point was attaching my worth to like the number, and so when it went down, I used to be like, well, I don't like I shouldn't even post anymore if I'm losing followers every time I post. What do I need to do to gain it back? This and that, and then I came to a point where I was just like, I don't like why do I make videos? It's not. It can never be. It can be. There are people that make videos for views, obviously, and that's like if that's your livelihood, I totally understand. But I feel like the people that honestly make it the best usually are people that do it because they love it. Because if you're going to continue to do that as your job, you have to love it. Um, but yeah, for me, it's just like at this point, I view it as like a hobby that I really enjoy, and so that's where I was like, I'm not going to make videos about stuff that I don't necessarily do in my own life that much anymore. So that's where fitness is something I'm super passionate about, and making videos about that makes me happy right now. So that's how it shifted towards that. Um, but yeah, I think if you're making videos just for views, then like, why are you making videos anymore? Especially for me, it wasn't making any sort of money that it made sense to just appease the people that are following me and not appease myself first.
That I love that last sentence. That was great. So but basketball is more of a form of cardio. Bodybuilding is something entirely different in terms of like the workout fitness space. Did you like how difficult? I'm not talking about like videos right now, just like real life. Like how difficult did you find that adjustment from like a cardio type exercise and sort of like a lean build to getting on a regimen where you're gaining muscle mass and you're focused on like overall like growth?
Yeah. Um, Not easy. I mean, I'm sure you understand. Like, if you to put on weight, especially with like fast metabolisms, it's insanely difficult to stomach that much food and like get used to eating that much food. So that was the hardest adjustment, I'd say, would just be diet and like getting on a plan where I'm just eating so many calories
Do you
because
have
I
a
wanted
number?
to put on
Do you
weight.
know a number?
I mean, I know my I know what I roughly do because I eat like the same stuff every day. I don't track, but like I know what I eat every day and like how much it is roughly. I try to shoot for like 36 when I'm bulking. I think my maintenance is around like 3,200 calories. So yeah, I would definitely say it's not easy, but the training part, like I feel like it almost just translated where like just like I'm sure you too. It's like if you're a physically active person, you have been your whole life. If you like, for me, I wasn't putting my energy towards playing basketball anymore, but that just kind of like that effort shifted towards just going to the gym every day, and that was just the new way that I like challenged myself and made myself feel good about being productive and pushing my body. So that's yeah. But honestly, I love it. The only thing is when I'm bulking, like I do tend to stray away from cardio in the winter as much as possible, which sometimes I'm like, I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing, but from like fast metabolisms, it's impossible
Mhm.
to do cardio 5 times a week and also put on weight. So
And the thing with the putting on weight and trying to get those calories in, there's different ways you can do it, and you it's not really beneficial overall for just like a normal human healthy body to try to do it with like bad calories, like junk food, just trying to get it all in. How has your diet changed in terms of like the types of food that you've been eating, like the frequency of your meals and things like that?
yeah. Um I was thinking about this the other day. I think it becomes a point where it's a habit, and I feel like that's when like it's good. Or not that you're good, but like that's when you've committed yourself to the point where you don't have to think about it anymore. But I think that what I said to my roommate the other day was it's kind of weird to me how like it's not even a thing that I never think about not putting protein in a meal anymore. Like there's never like a thought like a meal that I'll have, and if I think about it, like if I'm like, oh, I should have pizza, but then I'm like, but there's no protein on that. Like if it's like a cheese pizza or something,
I
so then
gotta
I'm
get the
like,
meat lovers.
exactly. But I would say just like the consistency of what I eat, it's a little more boring, definitely. But I don't think I'm so regimented that I never let myself have like food that I want. Like if in a healthy dose, like if I want to go out and get McDonald's with Quinn in once a month, like I'm gonna do that. So it's I think it's a balance, for sure. But definitely like I'm eating most meals, like breakfast, I'm always eating eggs. Um, Lunch and dinner is usually some sort of concoction of like it's either like chicken and rice, uh, ground beef and rice, turkey and rice, a lot of chicken and rice, but also like pasta with meat in it, or um, I make tacos a lot, man. I love Mexican food. It's so good. So yeah, I don't know. I would just say like the frequency of not even the frequency for me. I eat 3 square meals a day. But I would say like the consistency of it, having protein in every single meal, and then just like the portions have increased a lot. So yeah,
Fitness tips from Jack. If you want to look as good as him, make sure you listen. I have two main questions to round it out. We only have 8 minutes here.
yeah,
Um, we talked a bit earlier about the anxiety and pressure that can come with making content. I think that's even more prevalent in fitness, especially public gyms, and you're putting your body out there in a way that's obviously different than trick shot videos.
yeah.
Um, how have your experiences been with that? And then I got one more question after your answer for you.
Yeah. Um, I think it's just it's the most important thing is the comparison thing. And that's with everything, but it's so hard as humans to not compare ourselves to other people. So I think that the main thing for me has been struggling with just trying not to compare myself. And then on top of that, like the content that I make is I've been trying not to fall down a rabbit hole of like, oh, this does well for other people. Um, so just make these types of videos because, for instance, in the fitness industry, it's usually just like dudes posing, which I definitely have done a little bit of, but like I want it to be informational because I think that videos like that come across like narcissistic, which is never the vibe I'm trying to give off. I don't necessarily think that that should be how it's portrayed, but I understand why it is. Um, but yeah, it's hard because you want to be obviously proud of what you've worked for, but at the same time, like you want to, I feel like the main goal of most fitness influencers is and should be like helping other people achieve their fitness goals. Um, because you obviously at one point were not where you wanted to be, and now maybe you are, or you're working towards it. So yeah,
I love it. Your most recent video is last question I have for you, Jackie, and I appreciate the time you've given me. Your most recent video wasn't really basketball, wasn't really lifting, but I believe that was intentional. Like the main premise about it was just about loving yourself. It was more of like a POV day in the life sort of video. But there was a nice you had a nice voiceover talking about, choosing self-love, understanding things are okay and being present in the moment. It's something a lot different from a lot of things that you've posted. You don't have to get into specifics obviously, but I do want to know like what prompted you to make a piece of content like that.
yeah. I think it kind of relates to what I was just like relating to a little bit. I think it's a lot of content that I watch. There's specific people that I look up to, and there's like the informational, like they'll give it to you straight, and it's I love that type of content for learning how to train and. But there's also a lot of like motivational stuff that I watch that just makes me feel maybe a little bit better, more productive throughout the day, and yeah. So I guess like I'm trying to shape what my content looks like, and me like thinking like that I should be gearing it more towards what my own thoughts are throughout a day. I think that like people resonate with people who are vulnerable and are being real, and that's something that like I would want. That's something that someone that I look up to that makes videos. I would want them to be vulnerable and talk about maybe a problem they have or like an insight that they have that maybe help them that could help someone else. So yeah, it's basically just trying to move my content towards helping people because I think that's much more fulfilling rather than chasing a number.
That's a good answer, Jack. Jack, that's all I got for you today. I seriously really, I mean, it's my first episode. I really appreciate you hopping on with me. All of Jack's socials will be linked in the description of the episode. So go follow him. He makes really good stuff and he's a really good guy. Jack, thanks for coming on, man.
Dude, I appreciate it so much. I'll be tuning in.
Thank you, bro. Thank you.